Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Bobby Sylvester, joined as always by Mike Tagliere. If you don't already, join up on Twitter. We share a ton of stuff there. Tags and I are at Bobby Fantasy Pro and at Mike Tagliere NFL. And Tags, we've got a bold prediction show, which might be my favorite every single year. And the end of the show, we're going to be sharing our favorite backup running backs who could emerge into league winners, kind of like Phillip Lindsay, Nick Chubb did last year. We've got the perfect guest for today's show. It's Brad Evans of Yahoo Sports, and he's, of course, on Twitter at Yahoo Noise. Brad, we really appreciate you coming on the show. It's really busy in August. We love having you on, though. We're excited.
Hey, man, I appreciate the time. We're going to get bold. We're going to go full Team Huevos on it today.
I'll make a not-so-bold prediction. I would imagine Brad is probably going to be talking about David Montgomery at some point. Tags, you've probably got one from Mitch Trubisky and or Anthony Miller. And if you're a Packers fan, that's probably, you might want to skip past that part, but don't worry, I've got one Green Bay Packers fans are going to love too.
I've skipped the Mitch love today. I actually don't have a Mitch bold prediction, but there was another name you mentioned there that I might have a bold prediction on.
Sounds good, man. We're going to get right into it. But first, I just found out where I'm drafting last night in my most important home league. So I went right to the draft simulator, of course. Pounded out 10 drafts last night from the number 11 spot. It took me less than an hour to run 10 mock drafts, and every single one of them was a lot different. Guys, the draft simulator is an efficient way to practice for your draft. It's like doing a live mock draft, except you're drafting against our computer simulated opponents, which is a selection of expert cheat sheets and ADP sources. Live mock drafts are great and all, but it can be a pain trying to just get in the mock draft you want, much less waiting for everyone to make their picks. Our simulator can let you finish a draft in, like I said, as little as 5 minutes. If you want to test out different drafting strategies or just quickly see the type of team you'll end up with based on your cheat sheet, our simulator is a great option. Speaking of options, you'll be able to take your time with each and every pick or auto draft the rest of the way. You can even revert picks if you want. Premium members get added features with our draft simulator like custom scoring and advanced pick logic. MVP and Hall of Fame members can even practice mocks with keepers and do auction simulations too. Get an edge over the competition and use our draft simulator today at fantasypros.com/simulator. Also, we have an amazing offer that's going to grant you all our premium features, tools, and content for free. All you have to do is go to fantasypros.com/offers and make a $10 deposit at one of our partner DFS sites, and you'll get 6 months of our Hall of Fame package, a $65 value for free. Claim this offer and go premium for free today at fantasypros.com/offers. This offer is only valid to new Yahoo DFS, Monkey Knife Fight, DraftKings, and FanDuel users. And keep in mind, you can win money with that $10 deposit too. All right, guys, so we're going to get right into it. And Brad, you're going to start us off. Why don't you give us your first bold prediction, baby?
All right, this is going to be more hashtag Team Raisins instead of Huevos. But I'm going to go out on a long limb and say that Patrick Mahomes does not throw for 35 or more touchdowns.
I love it. I don't really think that's bold. I think everyone listening is going to hate you. By the way, he's on Twitter at Yahoo Noise if you want to send him your hate and not me. But I agree with you, Brad. In fact, I would say there's probably a 40% chance it happens. Like for these bold prediction shows, we're saying things that I think most people would say, there's less than a 10% chance it happens. I think all these things, there's a pretty decent chance that they could happen. Well, at least I hope that's the advice that we're giving. So I agree with this one, man. 40%. What do you think the odds are, Tags?
Oh man, the NFL has just become a different game where it's not how it used to be. If this was like 3 years ago, I'd probably be on that side of the take, but it's hard for me to say with Tyreek Hill healthy, with him, not being suspended at all, with Travis Kelce healthy, Sammy Watkins appears healthy, Damian Williams can catch passes out of the backfield. I can't say below 35, but would I say that there's a 15% chance of happening? Sure. It just really comes back to me for it's like the NFL is moving more towards a passing league, and I think we're going to see more and more quarterbacks moving forward that throw for 35 touchdowns. But with that being said, I'm going to piggyback on that because I had a backup bold prediction in case like one of us talked about the same player. My backup one was that Patrick Mahomes does not finish as a top 3 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, that's solid.
I mean, if you look at the QB1s over the past decade, not a single one of them is repeated as QB1. There's a chance that he finishes maybe 5 or 6. I mean, we've seen Aaron Rodgers have great years. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees have great years, and then they drop off just a little bit just because touchdown rates are so volatile. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes isn't one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm just saying that these more volatile stats can make it so that he doesn't have as impressive production as he had the previous year. Now, you said that it's a passing league. I agree it's been going that direction, but Tags, 2 years ago, if Patrick Mahomes had 34 passing touchdowns, he would have finished as the number 1 quarterback in touchdowns, man. That's still a ton of touchdowns.
Brad, are you with me on this where the league is changing, where it's like comparing like the touchdown percentages that we're seeing in today's game compared to quarterbacks that may have played in the early 2000s? It's almost not fair to those guys that played in the early 2000s.
No, I mean, we're the most prolific passing age in NFL history. I mean, every single year it seems like it is besting the previous year in terms of pass yards per game per team on average. It's just the nature of the beast nowadays. Look, I'm not saying that Mahomes isn't special, because he is. And I was all aboard the bandwagon last year. It was like, I think the only thing I actually got right in my predictions last season. Never forget Royce Freeman. And there might be a bold prediction tied to Royce Freeman. I might be quadrupling down on him later on in this podcast. But, Mahomes is a special player. You're right with Tyreek Hill now more or less exonerated, free and clear. Maybe he's going to be around for the season. Sammy Watkins, though, he's been dealing with some heat exhaustion. And I understand that he is a podiatrist's dream with all his foot ailments. But you have him. You got Kelsey, Damian Williams. You would expect to get maybe the lion's share of the RBBC, though I do like Darwin Thompson quite a bit to maybe steal away some touches. I mean, the opportunity is ripe. The defense isn't that much improved. I think this is, something that, though, a lot of people in Vegas and Jersey agree with, because you look at FanDuel Sportsbook right now, the over-under set in Jersey on Patrick Mahomes touchdowns this season is 36.5, and they are daring people to bet on the over.
That's crazy. I didn't realize it was that low.
Yeah, that's why I took this as a hot take.
Are you betting on that one, Brad? You bet on everything, so I'm sure you have got some money down.
I'm going to be in New York next week for a New York Mets fantasy football draft event. I may just sleep at the sports book when I'm not at the baseball stadium, and I will be wagering on the under on this.
Yeah. By the way, Tags, you're talking about it becoming a passing league. I want to make it clear I don't disagree with you whatsoever. I posted this stat way back in May on Twitter, again, at BobbyFantasyPro. Joe Flacco is going to pass Joe Montana and Johnny Unitas in career passing yards this year. And he's already passed Steve Young and Troy Aikman. He's only 34 years old. He's got more touchdowns than Bradshaw, Joe Namath, a lower interception rate than every single Hall of Fame quarterback. And everyone thinks Joe Flacco is trash. Like, I don't think he's a top 20 real-life quarterback, but that's the age that we're in. I totally agree.
Well, yeah, so one of the stats that I had from my 175 interesting facts from the 2018 season was if you were to combine every single quarterback that played in the NFL in 2018, they posted a 92.7 quarterback rating. That is higher than the career marks of Joe Montana, Andrew Luck, Matthew Stafford, Dan Marino, Brett Favre, and Troy Aikman. So it's like, yes, we are playing in a different game right now. And that's why it's like, I know why people want to draft quarterbacks early, but it makes zero sense when the position is as deep as it is, knowing that quarterbacks just don't repeat as the number one. It's a likely scenario. We see Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, and Baker Mayfield, almost them pull a Patrick Mahomes this year. And then Mahomes has kind of like a Matt Ryan-esque year, which is still really good. But again, don't waste your, top 3 rounds, maybe even top 4 rounds on a quarterback.
Right. Agree with that. All right, Tags, you're next for the next bold prediction.
All right, this one, I didn't know how bold it was, but looking at the ADP, to find a 34 overall player gap in the first 5 rounds is hard to do. I'm going to say that Chris Carson outscores Joe Mixon.
Oh, I believe that.
I've got that in my rankings, man. I'm banking on it.
There's a 34-point gap between the two, overall.
I'm not making fun of you because I think most people are going to think this is really bold, but dude, I'm totally with you on this.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement too. I'm not a fan of Joe Mixon at all. I think it's silly for people to be spending round 2 draft capital on a guy that is on a shoddy, and that is putting it kindly, shoddy offensive team. Oh, that, by the way, is probably not going to have A.J. Green on the field for the entire month of September. I'd be shocked if he's back before October 1st. I mean, that offensive line may be the worst in the NFL. You look at Joe Mixon, he's immensely talented, but you also compare him in terms of advanced analytics, and he was pedestrian in many ways. I mean, he was outside the top 30 in terms of yards after contact per attempt, outside the top 25 in missed tackle percentage. I mean, he's good in terms of the eye test, but statistically, a lot of those deeper dive numbers don't really support what you're seeing. I'd rather invest in a Dalvin Cook. I'd rather invest in a Nick Chubb. I'd rather invest in one of the elite wide receivers in round 2. You are burning Benjis if you are taking Joe Mixon in round 2 of your 10, 12, 14, 16 team draft.
So, Brad, how high do you have Chris Carson in your rankings right now? Because we had Jake Seeley on, and all 3 of us have him in our top 15 running backs.
I'm not that high. I think Rashad Penny is still going to play a factor here, and I know you're hearing reports that it could be 2/3 the workload side into Carson. But the one thing we have to take into consideration with Carson is going back to his high school days, he's always hurt. And, he's, inevitably, if you're going to predict it, he's probably going to miss at least a couple of games at some point in the year. Now, in terms of the advanced analytics, he's off the charts, much like Penny was. They were both top 10 in yards after contact per attempt last season. And this is still an ultra-conservative offense. You do worry about the defense. Does it take a step back? How many positive game scripts is he going to have? I like Carson. I like his ADP price right now, which is still hovering in like the 40s. But I do worry about the injury coming.
He missed 2 games last year, and he was still RB14.
Yeah, he's good.
He was really good. Yeah, he sure was. Mike Davis is losing. He's leaving 10 touches per game on the table. I think Penny gets those. Carson stays in the same role. Hopefully he stays healthy. If not, that's why you draft running back depth. So, all right, before we move on to the next one, I want to talk about one of the sponsors of today's show, PristineAuction.com. And, we've actually got a giveaway going on right now, thanks to PristineAuction.com at FantasyPros.com/contest. We're giving away a signed George Kittle San Francisco 49ers full-size helmet. It takes like 30 seconds to enter, so check it out at FantasyPros.com/contest. And the contest actually ends Friday night. So if you're listening to this, about to watch the game, you still have some time. Hurry up and get it in. Again, that's fantasypros.com/contest. And check out what Pristine Auction has for you. Tags and I are always spending time on there, filling our caves with great values that we find. No matter who your team is, favorite players, you're going to find stuff that you absolutely love. And you're definitely going to find some values because there's hundreds, thousands of options to choose from every single day. And everything's guaranteed authentic from only the most trusted sources. And when you sign up, it's free to sign up, by the way. Enter the registration code FANTASYPROS, all one word. You're going to get $5 off at Pristine Auction with your first purchase. That's PristineAuction.com, PRISTINE auction.com. I've had a lot of people asking me, what the worst offensive lines in football are over the last month, and we never really covered this on the podcast. I'm just going to give my top 5 right now, okay? Worst offensive line, I've got the Bengals, then I've got the Dolphins, the Jets, Texans, and Cardinals. Would you guys disagree with any of those?
That's pretty close to my bottom 5.
That's rock solid. I think Arizona could be better than advertised, though, only because of the scheme. And I wrote about this on Yahoo Sports and why I believe that Arizona is a fantasy goldmine. The way that the air raid system is set up, they spread out the offensive linemen a little bit further than your traditional, more compact setups. And what that allows is, you might say to yourself, well, that's going to make for easier rushing lanes for the oncoming defender. True, but it also widens the pass lanes and run lanes for RPO opportunities. And when you have an accurate quarterback and a very versatile quarterback who runs like a jackrabbit in the open field and Kyler Murray, I think Arizona can really overcome any of the inadequacies or inefficiencies in the trenches. So I think that that team as a whole is going to be a very healthy offensive environment. And I think the offensive line is going to be, again, better than advertised.
I was going to save this one until later, but since you're talking about this Cardinals offense, let's go there. Think about it this way, okay? If the Cardinals do run 75 plays a game, which is a ton. Cliff Kingsbury says they're running 80. I'd say, let's be conservative. Let's say 70.2, like the Ravens put up last year, right? Okay? But if they run 75, that's the equivalent of an extra 5 games worth of offensive snaps for the Cardinals offense over what Adam Gase has done since becoming a head coach. That's a really big deal. So here's my first bold prediction. Chase Edmonds is going to finish with more touches than Derrick Henry without an injury to David Johnson or Derrick Henry.
Wow.
What? That's bold. That's bold, my friend.
Now listen to this, all right? Derrick Henry had 230 touches last year. He played the full season. He had more positive game scripts than he's going to have this year, right? He's completely game script dependent. They've got the worst team in the AFC South. And he did this while Marcus Mariota was injured. He threw just 331 passes. I've got Derrick Henry with 210, 215 touches in my projections. Now let's do Chase Edmonds. Let's say Kyler Murray finishes right in the middle of the pack in the NFL in pass attempts. I think that's probably a stretch for a run-first rookie quarterback behind a putrid offensive line, but that's 500 attempts, same as Deshaun Watson last year.
Oh, but they're air raid, though. They're going to throw more.
Yeah, they are air raid, but they're going to run the ball quite a bit because, Murray's going to get his carries. And let's say Murray has 120 carries. That's top 10 all time for quarterbacks. David Johnson, let's give him 300. Would have been number 2 in the NFL last year. I think all that's kind of a reach. That comes to 955 plays. Kingsbury says he's going to run 80. Like I said, let's move it down to 70.2, what the Ravens did. That's 1,123, leaving 168 leftover carries for Edmonds, jet sweeps, fullback carries. And let's remember, he's a really good pass catcher too. I've got Edmonds getting 190, 200 touches this year. I think it's very feasible that Edmonds could surpass Derrick Henry as the backup running back for the Cardinals.
That is bold. That's as bold as I think you're going to hear on this show. Am I right, Brad?
I think you have elephantitis. Your waivos are so large. And truth be told here, Derrick Henry, I had him written down as a backup bowl prediction. I have him winning the rushing title this year.
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it's also possible that Chase Edmonds is going to carve out a Tariq Cohen-like role where he gets, what did Cohen have last year? 170 touches, and he was the RB13. Edmonds is going to get a lot of work, even if David Johnson and Kyler Murray get a lot of work.
I think you have to kidnap David Johnson, strap him to a rocket, and fire him off to Mars for that to occur.
All right, you're next, Brad.
All right, I'm going to go negative again before I get really saucy with a David Montgomery take. I'm going to say Todd Gurley plays less than 10 games and finishes outside the RB top 50.
Ooh. Wow. Okay, Tags, what do you think the odds of this are?
So Brad, I said it on another show that said Brad was leading the charge in regards to like the hate on Todd Gurley this year. Like you have him ranked as your what? Was it like your 21st running back or something like that?
Yeah, and I think I'm too, I might be too bullish on that.
So I want to know like the take behind this. Is it just like basically there's just too much risk to take at the top of the drafts? And I understand that part, but it's like to move him down this far because the guys that you'd have in front of him might be some unproven commodities on some bad teams. I understand the whole concern about Gurley's knee, but I mean, we can't use the arthritis thing because he's had arthritis since college. He had his knee opened up, so that's not it. What's your concern about Gurley?
Well, I think it's the management plan they have installed, and our own sleuth, Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports, talking to McVay and the coaching staff a couple of weeks ago, and one of the golden nuggets he came away with was they want Todd Gurley to play only about 65% of the snaps. Now, you look at the snap share from last year, he was above 80%. I think it was 88.2 to be exact. That was the number of snaps that he played, and even with the tail off at the end of the regular season. So if that is true, and they want to get Darrell Henderson more involved in this Chris Thompson kind of hybrid role, Malcolm Brown is still there. I think the need does come into play here. It is a major factor. Yes, it's arthritic, but what we know about arthritic knees is this. Over time, over an accumulation of work, they tend to deteriorate. They're never going to improve in overall health. I think the Rams medical staff knows that. I think the coaching staff knows that. That's why they've micromanaged him throughout this entire offseason. They've been vague with some of the details. McVay has been offering all kinds of smoke signals the entire offseason. You know, it started with the drafting of Henderson. It started with the re-signing of Malcolm Brown. And he then came out and said, hey, we want to feature more 2 running back formations this year, which is a telltale sign that they're going to reduce the workload of Gurley. They install this veteran plan. Now this whole Hawaii trip, like Gurley's not even going. And he's like, hey, man, I'd like to go and just sip some pineapple juice on the beach. And McVay's like, no, he's got to stay back, and they got to make sure that the knee's okay. I mean, there's so many signs, and people are still drafting him in the high portion of round 2. I think it's lunacy. And I think you're going to see it immediately. And look, even if he's on the field 65% of the time, and there's going to be nerds out there that say, hey, if you take 65% of what he did last year, he's still RB9. I'm smart. Look, I understand that, but there's no guarantee that he is even going to touch the rock 50% of those 65% snaps that he sees. So I'm saying far away. I'm risk averse that early in the draft. There are better options out there. You are playing with fire, and chances are you're going to get burned if you draft Todd Gurley.
If you want to tell me that you're risk averse in the first 2 rounds, I get it. Like that's basically where it's like, I guess you could probably play it safe there, but he falls to the 3rd round. I feel like that's the risk is worth the reward at that point, because then you're looking at guys, like Aaron Jones, that he does come with risk. I'm not going to pretend that I like Aaron Jones a lot, but I'm not going to say he doesn't come without risk. Damian Williams doesn't come without risk. That's a guy that's never carried the ball more than 13 times in a regular season game. Melvin Gordon, obviously he's a holdout right now. Marlon Mack doesn't catch the ball. So there's a whole lot of question marks there. So it's like the reward, I feel like, is greater than the risk once you get,
Agreed.
Especially when you get to the 3rd round.
Oh, I'm taking him in the 2nd. Heck, I'll take him in the 1st round. Well, we'll revisit this at the end of the year. And you know what? I would say, based on historical precedent over the last, decade, you look at the top 10 running backs drafted, how many of them missed 6 games? It's probably like 20%. And Gurley, of course, has increased risk. I'd say there's a 40-50% chance he completely kills you. But if he's on the field, I think that you're getting maybe the best running back in fantasy football. I understand that he's probably not ever going to be the same as he was, but he was so much better than everybody else each of the last 2 years that I think he's got league winning upside. So I don't mind taking him at the end of the 1st round. Totally understand your take, and that means more Gurley for me, so I'll take it.
Yeah, well, speaking of the running back I just talked about, here's my next bold prediction, or my next hot take, I should say. Aaron Jones finishes as a top 6 fantasy running back and is considered a first-round pick in 2020.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And this does not, by the way, qualify as a breakout player, just so people know. There are some people in the fantasy community, some esteemed voices in the fantasy community that have Aaron Jones in their breakout list. He broke out last year.
He was amazing last year. He just didn't play enough.
Yeah, weeks 8 through 14, he was RB5.
Yep, that's the exact stat I was just about to say, is that Aaron Jones was the RB5 when he was starting from weeks 8 through 14. That's not a small sample size, and knowing that the offense it had better be better, otherwise Green Bay made a really big mistake in hiring Matt LaFleur, which is still very possible. He needs to understand that Aaron Jones is the most talented running back on the team, and it's not even all that close.
Aaron Rodgers is going to kill somebody if Aaron Jones doesn't get a lot of touches. He's ready. He wants to win, man, and Aaron Jones is the running back they need to play, and he knows it.
Where do you draw the line, Brad? Would you take Aaron Jones over someone like Damian Williams or Marlon Mack?
I've got Marlon Mack slightly higher, but I think it's really a 1A, 1B conversation, way ahead of Damian Williams, who I've really cooled on because of the skittishness that we're all suffering from right now, the fears of the RBBC, the fact that Darwin Thompson has really earned all these superlatives throughout training camp and so far early on in the preseason. I'm getting increasingly wary of Damian Williams based on his round 3 ADP. But I think Aaron Jones, you guys are right. I mean, Dexter Williams may not even make the team, and a lot of people were fearful of him. Jamal Williams is a Jag. He's just a guy. Aaron Jones is going to be the dude. And you look at the advanced analytics, RB20 according to Pro Football Focus in yards after contact per attempt. Sports Info Solutions, RB12 in broken tackle percentage last year. Going back to PFF, RB13 in elusive rating. The O-line is projected to be top 10. Oh, and most importantly, as you guys mentioned, yes, he's awful at chugging beer, but Aaron Rodgers instills fear in the defenders that are facing him. And as a result, Aaron Jones sees a lot of light fronts. He only saw a stacked front rate. That means 8 or more men in the box, 13.5% of the time. Sky's the limit, baby.
Are you guys hearing Brad talk about these advanced analytics? What a nerd.
A total nerd.
I love Jones' upside. The risk of it being some kind of committee concerns me. I mean, I would love to draft Aaron Jones in the 4th round. I'm taking Chris Carson ahead of him, and Chris Carson's there a lot of times in the 4th round. So I don't have many Aaron Jones shares, but he's a great pick. He's got plenty of upside, and you're not wasting a ton of draft capital there. I agree on Damian Williams. I've got him down as my RB20 now. Brad, how low do you have Williams?
I got him at 18, so we're not too far off.
Do you think Darwin Thompson has a chance at the starting role? We talked about it yesterday a little bit, and we got one opinion that it's just just smoke. But are you a believer? Are you drafting?
I mean, Darwin Thompson doesn't wow me. He doesn't blow me away. None of these running backs do. I mean, Carlos Hyde is a baked potato. He's done. I mean, put some butter and chives on him. But
tags.
That's how it is with him. But the opportunity, the environment is so good. I mean, Damian Williams is a spectacular talent in his own right. It's just all about the light fronts. In fact, you've got maybe a generational quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, under center with so many field stretchers that, it's just great to boost your overall production. I did have, this was another one of my backup bold predictions, so I'll let the cat out of the bag here. I said Damian Williams falls out of favor due to soft tissue issues, and that elevates Darwin Thompson to RB1 from weeks 10 on. So I have him as a top 10 running back from weeks 10 on, and Darwin Thompson will be one of those guys that wins your league.
That's interesting. I could see that scenario playing out. Guys, I'm going with another running back here, and I'm going to cool off just a little bit. In fact, the last one I did was by far my boldest one. I wanted to save it towards the middle of the show, but since we brought up that Cardinals offense. So here's mine. You mentioned Derrick Henry as your potential rushing leader. Marlon Mack is going to lead the NFL in rushing yards this year. Mack started 12 games last year, including the playoffs. He had 1,102 rushing yards. Make that a full 16-game season. We're looking at 1,496, which would have led the NFL, and 13 touchdowns. Both those numbers were higher than what Zeke or Saquon Barkley did. Mack and Nick Chubb both took over in Week 7. We're drafting Nick Chubb in the late first round, right? And from that time on, Mack had more fantasy points. In fact, Mack was the RB7, and that doesn't even factor in his 154 with a score against the Texans in the playoffs. And just because he didn't catch the ball last year doesn't mean he can't catch. Let's not forget, he was a third down back in 2017, and Mack had as many receptions as Saquon in 2016 in college despite playing 2 fewer games. If anything happens to Nyheim Hines, I think Mack could go nuts, guys.
I think he can go nuts on the ground without an injury to Nyheim Hines. I think he's the guy.
He will, but I'm just saying, if he turns into a 3-down back, Can you imagine this guy?
Oh, yeah, with the offensive line they have there, me personally, I'd say Marlon Mack has a better shot of doing it than Derrick Henry.
They're both game script dependent at this point, with Hines being there and with Deion Lewis being there in Tennessee, but Indianapolis is also going to have more positive game scripts for the running back. I think Derrick Henry is a superior runner, but just the situation makes Mack more likely in my mind.
First, the situation matters. I mean, Brad already talked about he likes Marlon Mack this year, so I don't think he's going to argue with this one.
No, I'm not. And just to add a little extra spice to this, Marlon Mack, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, 32-1 to win the rushing title.
Wow.
Ooh, I'll take that.
That's mouthwatering, isn't it?
All right, before we move on, everyone, bestfantasyfootballleague.com has been providing leagues now for 19 years. They've got 10, 12, 14-team leagues, 6 different starting lineup options, not just one, and entry fees range from $19.99 to $2,999. They have PPR, non-PPR leagues, redraft leagues, dynasty leagues, best ball leagues, weekly and season leagues. Now, some sites that offer paid dynasty leagues don't even require a deposit for the next year, but with bestfantasyfootballleague.com, you pay 2 years ahead of time. Their goal is not to offer dynasty leagues that fall apart after one season, but rather instill longevity. And they do their best to make sure it's a game of skill, because there can be a lot of luck factored into fantasy football. So one way they do this is in season-long leagues. Each week you play 2 games, one head-to-head matchup and another against the league average score that week. So if you're the second highest scoring team in your league, but you played the highest scoring, you go 1-1 instead of 0-1. It allows the cream to rise to the top, creating truer reflection of how good a team really is. Then in the playoffs, there's 2 week matchups. You play the same team twice in back-to-back weeks, and the highest scoring team in total advances. Again, they make their leagues more about skill than luck. And they do have leagues with kickers and defense if that's what you want to do, and leagues that do not. Also, they are proudly not tight end premium leagues. Be sure to stick around until the end of the podcast when we're going to mention a special opportunity through bestfantasyfootballleague.com. All right, what do you have for number 3 here, Brad?
Oh, let's go to David Montgomery.
Ooh, here's the Stones.
Do we have 2 hours left on this podcast? So here it is. David Montgomery exceeds my wildest dreams and expectations. Finishes RB8 or higher with 1,500 combined yards and 8 to 10 touchdowns.
1,500 combined yards?
That is bold, my friend, and I like it.
I don't know. Is it bold? I mean, we're looking at Jordan Howard his rookie year, 2016. How many yards did he finish with? 1,600 from scrimmage. He was the RB9. Jordan Howard.
Cohen wasn't on the team at that point, so those touches.
Yeah, and it was different coaching staff. John Fox, the nincompoop, was running things.
I mean, how much more talented is David Montgomery than Jordan Howard?
Yeah, exactly. John Fox is like 1980s head coach. Like he was a terrible hire. It was a bad hire at the time, and he runs like a dinosaur. But in regards to, so Brad, I really do appreciate your love for David Montgomery. Obviously, I'm a Bears guy as well. I love David Montgomery. He was my top running back before the NFL draft. So before he was even a Bear, I liked him. The question is, what's his upside with Tariq Cohen? Do you think that he can eat into Cohen's stats? And do you think that Mike Davis simply just fades away?
Yeah, I think Mike Davis is an afterthought. He's an insurance policy, nothing more. Maybe 3 to 5 touches per game if he's lucky. And here's the thing we have to understand about Matt Nagy and his history. You know, go back to his days as OC in Kansas City. He's a guy, and he's been very open about this. He likes one running back typically. Now, I think they view Tariq Cohen as more of a Tyreek Hill light type of player that can be utilized as jack of all trades, shifted about, multidimensional weapon, whether it's in the slot, whether it's outside, whether it's in motion. I mean, Cohen's not going to see another 90-plus carries like he did last year. I think that could be reduced by 25, maybe even 30. Montgomery's special. You know, the advanced analytics, we've said it time and time again, over 100 missed tackles in consecutive years behind questionable offensive lines in Ames, Iowa for Iowa State. The only running back in the PFF era to go over 100 missed tackles in a single season. And again, he did it twice. He can catch. I mean, you saw it on display. You know, I jokingly have said this. Everybody talks about the drive and John Elway against the Browns back in the day. No, screw that. The drive was with second stringers and David Montgomery preseason week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. You saw it all. You saw it all. And look, it's not just Nick, it's the rest of the coaching staff. They have been saying, look, he could be an every down guy. He has a 3-down skill set. Just follow the signs and follow the evidence, and it's going to point to him. I think week 1, at a minimum, he's going to get 16 to 18 touches against the Green Bay Packers. Ooh. And if he delivers instantaneously, he's going to get 20 touches per game and deliver on, again, all of my wildest dreams and expectations. Tags, I'm not wearing pants this year.
So I looked it up on Twitter before the show because I knew we were talking about David Montgomery, and I can't find the person who called him a rabid rhinoceros. That's perfect.
That's good.
David Montgomery runs exactly like that. And you know what, Tags, you're saying this is so bold. What if I would have told you last year, ADP running back 43, James White, was going to finish as a top 8 running back?
Yeah, I would have said that was bold, sir.
Yeah, you would have said that, and guess what? That's where he finished, man.
I know.
Yeah, these kind of things do happen. I think Montgomery has, if I'm talking about guys outside the top 20 who have a chance, Montgomery's near the top of that list.
Yeah, you search for running backs that play for a really good offense that's going to score a lot of points, and the Bears should be one of those teams.
Well, if Mitch Trubisky
Don't start with me, Bobby. Don't get me started.
You know, I've got Mitch Trubisky in my top 12 quarterbacks, man. You know I'm fine with Mitch. I just, with the recent reports and everything, people are panicking.
Yeah.
All right. I was about to skip you, Tags, but you're next. Who do you have?
Fortunately, you didn't. This one I like. And
why don't you do your Bears one here? This is the NFC North round.
This is actually an NFC North round. So I'm going to there's 2 players part of this bold prediction that Anthony Miller and Geronimo Allison, the 2 slot-heavy wide receivers, finished as top 25 fantasy wide receivers despite being drafted outside the top 120 players. They're outside the top 10 rounds right now in half PPR formats, and I think both of them, top 25 wide receivers, the potential is absolutely there.
Well, Geronimo Allison went to the Harvard of the Midwest, University of Illinois. So for me, you guys know that I'm a fan. He's long, he's lanky, he's got the rapport and established chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. I actually really like him exclusively in the slot with MVS working outside. I think, as long as he can stay healthy, if he can lure 20 to 22% of the target share, which is entirely achievable, he'll meet this expectation. I think he is one of those guys who was very undervalued in the middle of your draft, kind of in a similar vein to Christian Kirk, though Christian Kirk's going to cost you a little bit more. I like that call on Allison quite a bit. Not so much on Anthony Miller because I do not trust Trubisky. And the one thing I worry about with Trubisky and why I'm betting the unders on passing yards with him in Jersey right now and touchdown totals, which is at 24.5 for passing touchdowns, it's because the Bears defense is elite and they're bar none the best in the NFL. And what I think you're going to see are a lot of positive game scripts, which benefits who? Oh, yeah, that guy I talked about already, Dave Montgomery.
I don't disagree that the Bears defense is still solid. I don't like losing Vic Fangio. I think that's going to negatively impact the team like 100%. I really do. And I understand that they're trying to run the same scheme. I get that. I think it's a step back, and I think that last year that's part of the reason that Mitch didn't live up to even higher expectations is because there was a whole bunch of positive game scripts where he didn't really need to do anything. When they're shutting teams out, when they're holding the Rams to I think 7 points or whatever it was, that's crazy. This year I do think they take a slight step back. I think you're going to see Trubisky throw the ball. I'm going to say anywhere from 20 to 40 times more. I think, second year Nagy's offense, second year with all these receivers, because people forget that. They forget that, Allen Robinson was new. He didn't have a full offseason. Anthony Miller was new, coming off a foot injury. He had a dislocated shoulder. Taylor Gabriel was new. Trey Burton was new. There was just so many moving parts in that offense. I couldn't expect Trubisky to be exactly consistent. I'm just hoping that these reports out of camp are just overblown, because sometimes things happen with beat reporters and, they overblow things. But it was telling to me, though, Brad, is that we didn't see Trubisky in the first preseason game at all. Like, he was on the field, he took a few snaps, but he didn't throw the ball. And if there really was some issues, I think Nagy would want to work those out, at least to have him throw, a couple times.
Well, there are a lot of issues with Trubisky. I don't know if you guys follow Warren Sharp's work closely, but Warren he's tremendous. He did a full dissection of Trubisky. Basically, Mitch was a frog in 8th grade science class, and he dove in, and the liver was corrupted, the heart was in bad shape. I mean, what Nagy did with Mitchell Trubisky last year was pure brilliance in terms of scheming. He had one of the worst success rates on third downs. He was only successful on like 4 routes throwing the football. I mean, he was missing wide open guys on occasion. There are always flashes of brilliance with Mitch. But, when push comes to shove in a high leverage situation, there is no way in hell I would want the ball in his hands.
All right, guys, I'm going to poo-poo on your Bears parade here with my number 3. Aaron Rodgers has the best season of his career, tossing a career high 4,700 yards, 46 touchdowns on the way to Super Bowl number 2.
I mean, I can't say that losing McCarthy is a bad thing. I didn't like McCarthy before this, and I know some people...
First time we've seen him away from the dreaded McCarthy.
Well, it's funny because some people tell me that the only reason I'm saying Mike McCarthy's bad is because of what happened in 2018. That's not true at all, actually. I came out with a rankings article on head coaches before last season and had him as a bottom 6 head coach in the NFL. I don't care that he won a Super Bowl. I can care less because Mike McCarthy was holding back Aaron Rodgers. The issue, however, is that Matt LaFleur, I'll continually say this, I have no idea how that guy got a head coaching job. It's not to say he's going to be bad. I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I don't know. But what I'm saying is his resume, from what I've seen, has nothing to deserve a head coaching role.
So do you guys remember when Tom Brady said, if Aaron Rodgers played for Bill Belichick, he'd throw for 7,000 yards in this game? We finally get to see Aaron Rodgers away from McCarthy. And, keep in mind, Rodgers legitimately played on a broken leg last year, and he was sacked 49 times, and still managed the second most yards in his career while tossing just 2 interceptions. Basically, he's still really freaking good, and with a healthy Geronimo Allison and Jake Kumaro, plus an emerging Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Aaron Rodgers loves Kumaro, man. He was hurt last year. That was a blow.
I love that you threw him in there, though.
I had to, man, yeah. I think Rodgers is going to take another step forward. He's still really good, guys.
Never throws a pick.
Yeah.
He didn't take any risks last year, though, either. He didn't throw into coverage very much. And so there was a part of me last year when I watched Rodgers, and I've called him the greatest quarterback, the most talented quarterback, I should say, of all time. And I felt like he was too risk adverse last year, and he's going to have to get over that. I mean, yes, he only threw 2 interceptions, but Rodgers was, if I only saw last year's as a sample size, he was not the best quarterback of all time. No, he wasn't. But the thing is, Matt LaFleur is not Josh McDaniels. That's basically my point here. I don't really care what he did with the Rams because he wasn't calling plays. That was Sean McVay. We've seen people go on from head coaches and they just don't turn out the same results. And that's my concern with LaFleur. But again, I don't think that you can really downgrade very much from Mike McCarthy. So I don't think this is a bad take. Brad, where are you at on Aaron Rodgers this year?
I've got him at QB3. We're all not that far off here in the conversation. Bobby's perspective, I can entirely see that panning out this year. I mean, it is a very promising offensive environment with the weapons that are there and the development beyond Devontae Adams we talked about Geronimo Allison. Does MVS take that next step? Does Aaron Jones take that next step?
Jake Kumaro.
Kumaro, yes. Clearly, you're the leader of the fan club there.
Aaron Rodgers is, man. He talks him up every chance he gets.
He does, absolutely. He's got the strong mustache game going on. I mean, there's a lot of benefits for Aaron Rodgers. I like the line. I think he's a great value right now. This is not, I think, a far-reaching take in any way, shape, or form. And all this does, guys, is support what we started with in this bold predictions. Fade Patrick Mahomes and get Aaron Rodgers 4 or 5 rounds later.
Yes. Yep. I've got Aaron Rodgers closer to number 1, Patrick Mahomes, than I have him to number 3, Deshaun Watson and Matt Ryan. I said them both at number 3 because it's just so dang close for 3 and 4. All right, we'll get to the next one here in just a moment. But first, guys, I love best ball so much. Tags and I talk about it all the time. And we don't really do many episodes on it just because not enough people are playing it. You guys need to get yourself signed up on Draft and start playing. And if you want to join the biggest NFL season-long tournament ever, you need to join Draft because they've got the $3.5 million best ball championship on Draft. That's right, $3.5 million in real money. It's freaking huge. Here's how best ball works. It's season-long, but with no management. Just set it and forget it. Once you're done drafting, that's it. No trades, no waiver wire. You don't even have to set your own lineup. You get the best players automatically started each and every week. You'll get your best score guaranteed. No salary caps. You play in a real live snake draft just like the ones you play with your friends in a season-long league. There's no better place to play than Draft, and you can draft a team anytime you want. Leagues start every couple minutes, so you can join one right now. Just do a draft, and in 16 weeks, you can be a millionaire. It doesn't get any easier than that. Join me on Draft today. Download the app anytime. Just search Draft in the app or Play Store and join a game in minutes. Or play right from your computer on draft.com, whatever you want. For a limited time only, you can get a free entry into the Best Ball Championship when you make your first deposit. But you have to use my promo code, FantasyPros, all one word. That's right, a free shot at $1 million just by using the promo code, FantasyPros, all one word, when you make your first deposit on Draft. Just search Draft in the app or Play Store or go to draft.com and come play free with promo code, FantasyPros. Brad, let's move on to your number 4 bold prediction. We'll each give 2 more, and then we'll talk about these backup running backs.
Oh, I've got a bonus one on top of that. I got 3
All right,
more.
bring it.
So let's say at the quarterback position, and a guy that I've already written a lot about and who I'm completely enamored with is Kyler Murray. I say he delivers on the hype. I think he outpaces Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, and Andrew Luck and finishes inside the top 5.
Whoo! That's bold.
There's a scenario where it happens. I don't have him ranked that high, but I could see it.
I have him as QB 12 right now. I like him, and I actually could move him higher. I could definitely see all this stuff, but it's like understanding risk reward here is that he's never played in the NFL. We've never seen it. We don't know if Kingsbury's offense is going to work. The offensive line is shoddy. The wide receivers are young outside of Larry Fitzgerald. There's like a whole lot of questions here, but we know the upside. The upside legit, and I'm with Brad here. There is top 3 upside for Kyler Murray this year. Like I will not dispute that 1 second. And I have a bet with Mike Wright from the Footballers with Trubisky and Murray. And the more that I'm thinking about this, the more I'm like,
you're screwed.
I should have gotten some sort of odds on this, and it was probably a bad bet. But I'll stick with my guy here and hope that Mitch pans out.
So guys, I've got a trivia question for you here. Okay, which quarterback has the most rushing attempts in a single season in the history of football?
It's Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, yeah.
7 games started, and he had 147 last year. Holy moly, guys. What is his upside?
I have him right there in that group with Trubisky and Kyler Murray. Like, these are high floor quarterbacks that I like Murray more than Lamar Jackson just because I don't want to say that the rushing upside is as high. I don't want to say that, but the play count is going to be higher. Murray's a much better passer. Like, Murray can sling it. The dude's got a rocket for an arm. Waiting for wide receivers to get open a little bit too much, that happens. But I like them all. Like, if you're waiting in your draft and you get Lamar Jackson, I'm fine with that. Like, these are all fine. It's like taking the chance that like you're hoping one of them pans out as a top 5 guy, and you're drafting him outside, the top 15, top 18 sometimes you can get Trubisky or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, just kind of piggyback on what Tags is saying. I'm in complete agreement on Lamar Jackson. I think there is, top 8 upside with him. It's all about delivering the ball crisply and accurately through the air. It was funny when a reporter put out to John Harbaugh earlier this season and said, hey, if I set an over-under of like 130 rush attempts for Lamar Jackson, he goes, over! So, I mean, he's going to run. There's no question about it. It's just what he does vertically more than anything else. And to rope another player in this conversation, Josh Allen is right there too. Is he good at football? Hell no. He's terrible.
Hell no.
He's awful. So is Tim Tebow. So was Terrell Pryor when he was a quarterback. But because of the scoring duality, it always raises the floor. And even if Allen improves slightly through the air, and he, supports it with the ground game. I mean, over a 7-week period last year, he was the number 1 overall quarterback in fantasy scoring. And right now you're getting him in QB 20. I think he is one of those players that is grossly underappreciated based on what he did last year and the potential steps he can take here in a sophomore campaign.
Do you think he throws as much this year?
You got John Brown there. That helps. It definitely could, he's got a cannon for an arm. He's got to improve a little bit on the touch, on the deep ball, and also in the intermediate field. But yeah, I think he's going to throw a little bit more. I think this Bills team could be sneaky good.
Interesting. I think you're the only one who thinks that, but you know what?
Defense is good, man.
They always surprise us. The Bills are just a good football program. By the way, did you guys know Lamar Jackson, from the time he took over, had more rushing yards than Christian McCaffrey, Sony Michel, Marlon Mack? What in the world?
That's the world we live in, man.
Holy moly, man. And Gus Edwards was number 4 in that time? What does that say for Mark Ingram and Justice Hill?
I mean, it says a lot for Mark Ingram. He's got a safe floor. Just the ceiling you worry about.
All right, Tags, number 4. What do you have, buddy?
All right, this one is I don't want to say it's a hot take, but this is one where it's like I think this happens. Odell Beckham and Baker Mayfield are the cheat code. And Odell Beckham finishes the number 1 fantasy wide receiver with over 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns.
You know what? I almost said something really similar on the show about Odell Beckham. That's really funny, man.
Beckham, combining Beckham's ability to separate and his ability to run routes with Baker Mayfield's accuracy is stupid good. It's like putting Odell Beckham with like a Drew Brees type quarterback. And I know people are going to be rolling their eyes, but Baker Mayfield is that accurate. He's really friggin' good. This combination, the fact that the Giants let it happen, I think people are going to be looking back and thinking, how did we overlook this? Odell Beckham's just stupid good. And don't think it's going to take time with those two either, because think about it this way. Odell Beckham missed a lot of training camp with a hamstring injury his rookie year. He didn't play until it was week 4 or week 6, and he came in and dominated with Eli Manning right away.
Yep. I'll say this. If I knew all the wide receivers were going to play 16 games, I'd rank Beckham as my number 1 wide receiver. It wouldn't really be a difficult decision, but because of the soft tissue injuries in the past, I've got him wide receiver 4. I think he has the most upside of any of these guys, though.
Yeah, he's top tier for me.
Best situation, most talented, yeah.
Odell Beckham is the best fantasy. So far to this point in his career, when he's on the field, he is the best fantasy football receiver of all time.
You're right about that. Brad, where are you taking Odell Beckham? If he's there at the turn, you snagging him?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the 9 spot for some sick, demented reason. The fantasy gods hate me, and all these like mock drafts, high stakes drafts, like, oh, hey, Brad, guess what? Congratulations, you're number 9 again. So I usually have been going Devontae Adams and then coming back and getting my choice of OBJ, Michael Thomas, some cases even Julio Jones in the early portion of round 2, but it's usually Beckham, and I feel really good about it. I'm tickled that I'm getting OBJ at that point. I agree, guys, and Baker Mayfield is just damn good. Not only can he shotgun a beer by biting a can, but his lip raccoon is almost Dick-alike in its magical powers, and Tags is spot on. Similar to Kyler Murray during his days at Oklahoma. He is one of the elites in all of college football in terms of completion percentage, and we saw that transfer flawlessly to the next level. So sky's the limit for Baker. This is going to be a beautiful marriage. OBJ, I don't think is going to be vocal. I don't think he's going to pout. He's not going to have any T.O.-like temper tantrums on the sidelines. This is just a match made in fantasy heaven.
So, Brad, you're going to think this next one is really bold, but I don't really feel like it's that bold because it's just right. All right, Tags, you're ready for this one.
I'm ready.
ADP tight end 35 and number 328 overall, Jeff Swaim is going to lead the Jags in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns en route to finishing as a top 10 tight end.
I know where you're going with this because of Nick Foles' propensity of throwing to the tight end, but the one player you got to worry about is Josh Oliver.
Josh Oliver's hurt right now, man.
I know, but when he comes...
Yeah, when he comes, he's athletic. Jeff Swaim's good too, though, man. I mean, in 12 games started, I'll go to Nick Foles first. In 12 games started with the Eagles, Foles targeted Zach Ertz 109 times. That's 9.1 per game, or the same as Michael Thomas, ahead of Mike Evans, Keenan Allen. In Kansas City, Foles targeted Kelsey 8.5 times per game. Heck, in St. Louis, Foles targeted the tight ends over 28% of the time and 8.7 times per game. That was Lance Kendricks, the run-blocking first tight end. Swaim was the most athletic tight end in the 2015 draft class. Last year, he had 32 targets, caught 26 of them for 7.6 yards per target, which was more than Zach Ertz. Then add on the fact that D.D. Westbrook has a groin injury, Marquise Lee is still dealing with a knee, Dante Moncrief's gone. It might take just 600 yards, 65 receptions, and a handful of touchdowns. So that's what it would have taken in 2018 to pass D.D. Westbrook, who was a clear-cut wide receiver 1. And guys, that's what Kyle Rudolph did last year. We're drafting him tight end, 14, 15?
I appreciate your boldness, sir. I really do. I mean,
I'm starting Jeff Swaim in 80% of my league so far in week 1 against the Chiefs. I'm not messing around here. I'm going to win a lot of money in my GPP leagues on Jeff Swaim.
Yeah, well, I was going to say DFS, that's the play, because what's his ownership going to be, 0.1%?
Yep.
Probably.
And it's all going to be me. I'm winning all the monies.
That's one of the hottest takes I've heard. That's right alongside another bold prediction. I love Liz Loza to death, and she is on the Chris Conley bandwagon in Jacksonville. I don't understand any of it.
Oh,
I'm a
Liz.
Jags fan. Tell her I can't do that. No, I don't think so, guys. And I was a Chris Conley guy back in Kansas City, but I'm not seeing this. I think it's DJ Chark even before Conley, and it's really none of them. That's the real answer.
For me, it's D.D. Westbrook, and that's it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, man.
All right, we're moving on to number 5 now, Brad. If you've got 2 more left, why don't you go ahead and throw them both together?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to lump them, and you guys just decide which one's bolder. Number 1, Chris Godwin snags 100 receptions, finishes top 8. And to piggyback on this, I got some action on Jameis Winston at 10-1 to be the league leader in passing yards.
10-1? That's a gimme.
It is. As horrendous as that defense is going to be, I mean, they're just printing money and giving it to you. Here, go spend it. Royce Freeman scores 10 or more touchdowns and overtakes Phillip Lindsay by midseason.
Hey, I like both those. If you were expecting a reaction, you're not getting it. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm not.
Tags is thinking.
No, I mean, like, so I was looking at my list of like backup ones that I had, and again, I can go to a backup one. Chris Godwin surpasses Mike Evans as the number 1 wide receiver in Tampa Bay.
I mean, Mike Evans has even said, like, I'm battling with Chris Godwin for the number 1 spot. You watch Chris Godwin play, he's exceptional, man. If it weren't for Mike Evans, I'd have so many shares. Well, I guess I wouldn't have so many shares of Godwin because his ADP would rise a ton. But
yeah, Arians has said that he's not taking Godwin off the field, and they want to double cover Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin's going to get a lot of targets. And that's essentially the role that he had Larry Fitzgerald playing in Arizona, which is always nice. And obviously, Jameis Winston, people are throwing out the numbers from last year in regards to Ryan Fitzpatrick versus Jameis and what wide receivers did better with which quarterback. It's a very, very small sample size. And let's not pretend that Ryan Fitzpatrick is he was basically the QB1 when he was on the field. So let's not use his best statistical year, like for what was it? 8 games. It's just such a small sample size. I don't want to do that. But I think it's very possible that Chris Godwin is a more well-rounded wide receiver than Mike Evans. And Evans has just really benefited off volume over the years. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying that I don't think he's in the tier with the Julio Joneses, the DeAndre Hopkins, like those guys that legitimately they're going to beat anybody talent-wise, and they're going to get targets because of that. Whereas Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, the talent gap between those two is not that large.
Don't disagree.
All right, Tags, what do you have for your number 5? Make it a good one. And don't steal mine.
No, this one, I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast for a few months, you've heard this before. It's that Ben Roethlisberger finishes outside the top 18 fantasy quarterbacks.
Oh, you mean like half the times in his career?
Well, early in his career, yeah.
Yeah, before Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger was not someone you desired to have in fantasy football. And I know that Juju's good, but Hines Ward wasn't a bad receiver. Mike Wallace wasn't a bad receiver. So Juju's fine and all that, but I really just believe that Ben Roethlisberger takes a massive step back this year without Antonio Brown.
I don't think it's going to be a significant step back. I'm actually really enjoying the fact that people are buying into that notion. I played a lot of Superflex leagues and auction format. And by the way, if you're not doing auction, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, agree.
And I've been getting, even in that essentially a 2-quarterback format, I'm getting Roethlisberger consistently for like $14 to $16. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think Dante Moncrief can step in and be suitable. I really like Vance McDonald quite a bit. You have Juju there. I'm not a big James Washington believer, but they do have a strong ground game in James Conner. So, I mean, it's going to be there. It's just a matter of what version of Roethlisberger is going to show up away from Heinz Field. That's the biggest question, because he is so, he struggled so mightily on the road. I don't know if somebody's slipping X-Lax and the Gatorades. I don't know if it's the hotel beds, the buffet food at the Marriott or the Sheraton or wherever they're staying. There's just something about the road where he suffers. And if he can be at least average there, even with a slight regression at home, he's still going to be easily a top 15 guy.
Here's why I think he takes a step back. You look at 2016, 509 pass attempts. 2017, 561. 2018, 675? That's not happening again, guys.
No, they're going to dial it back. My concern is that Roethlisberger can buy time. He's a tough guy to bring down, but he always had that safety blanket with Antonio Brown. And again, like losing, I just think people are continually undervalued just how damn good Antonio Brown is at football. And there's a reason that the Raiders are putting up with his crap, because he's so good at the game. Like legitimately, he's a top 5 wide receiver all time. And I think he made Ben, it's like, a lot of times, like wide receivers will make quarterbacks look better than they are. I'm looking at Odell Beckham. It's just one of those things where it's like Roethlisberger, I think he's a fine quarterback. I do not think that Ben Roethlisberger is elite. I would say that Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees should be in the Hall of Fame before him. That's my take on him.
Man, you were going to get so much hate for that.
I know I am, and that's fine. But
the last time I said that, my Twitter just completely blew up. I thought about just quitting my job.
That is
They've
so
got nothing
good.
on San Diego Padres fans on the baseball podcast, but Pittsburgh Steelers fans, they're number 2. I think so. I don't know. All Boston fans are pretty rough too. There's just a lot of mean people out there that hurt my heart.
There's a lot of mean people out there.
All right, here's my number 5. You all know this is coming. He's passed David Moore as my number 1 sleeper, my absolute must-have. I really don't think there's a single league yet outside of best ball where I don't have Justice Hill. I've got Justice Hill. He's going to finish as a top 12 fantasy running back this season. I mean, you guys remember Reggie Bush's rookie year? 9 carries a game, 600 yards on the ground, 700 through the air. He broke a handful of big plays for touchdowns. Well, guess what? He finished RB8. From the time Lamar Jackson took over, the Ravens ran the ball 45 times a game. That's going to come down for sure, but I mean, there's 9 carries a game in there for Hill, considering Mark Ingram's now 30 years old. Plus, their number 1 receiver right now is who? Willie Snead, Chris Moore? Lamar Jackson has a weak arm. He's going to be dumping off to the lightning quick Hill on third downs every week. Tariq Cohen was the RB13 last year, as I mentioned, and here's why. If you take just his receiving stats, he would have been the wide receiver 33. That's Justice Hill in 2019, guys. And that's if Mark Ingram doesn't get hurt or just disappear now that he's not in the Saints offense.
Like it, dude.
I hope you're right, because I've got a lot of Justice Hill shares in best ball.
You're going to win.
Exorbitant number of drafts that I partook in June. It seemed like Hill was always there in like the wee beer fuzzy buzzy hours of the draft. And I was like, there's nothing but upside here and a conservative offense. So yeah, it could happen.
All right, guys, we're going to go backup running back tag. Did you have any more you wanted to add? We don't even need to talk about them. Just give us your backup bold predictions.
My backup one.
Lightning round.
Here's a really bold one. Leonard Fournette plays 15 games.
That's extraordinary.
I love it.
I've got Corey Davis finishes as the top 10 wide receiver.
I'll give one more for my Tyrell Williams lovers. Travis Benjamin is a better fantasy wide receiver than Tyrell Williams.
Wow.
I'm serious, too.
Jared Smola is going to come to your house and tickle you.
Probably. You know how bad Tyrell Williams is? They're not even featuring him on Hard Knocks.
Because he's so fast. He's a blur. That's the reason why, Tags.
You can't even catch him on video?
You can't.
All right, guys, let's talk about some backup running backs here. And basically what I want to do is just who can be the next Phillip Lindsay? Like, say they get the job, whether it's preseason, week 5, week 10, somebody that can win your league for you in the playoffs as an RB1 type from the moment they take over. Brad, do you have a couple guys in mind that you think this could be?
Yeah, I've got one in particular. And look, this has everything to do. It's not going to be a Phillip Lindsay situation. There's so few of those that exist, even in any given decade of the NFL. They do crop up from time to time. Pierre Thomas, I love you. I remember that back in the day, undrafted guy that rose through the ranks with the New Orleans Saints. So this one's going to have to be spurred by an injury of the guy in front of him, but he has been injury prone, and that is Brian Hill of the Atlanta Falcons.
That's a great call, Brad. I love this.
Yeah, I mean, Ito Smith is very vanilla, very bland, very boring, and he's being outplayed right now by Quadri Allison and Brian Hill in training camp and early on in the preseason. But Hill's a talented guy, product of the University of Wyoming, much like Josh Allen. He's got the size. He's got pretty good speed as well, versatility. What I like about Atlanta is they made a conscious effort in the NFL draft to improve the offensive line. We'll see if that pays dividends, but, in a very welcoming offensive atmosphere where you have Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, Austin Hooper, Calvin Ridley to, stretch the field in the defense. If Brian Hill gets an opportunity, he could be one of those out of nowhere, off waivers kind of guys that get you the hardware in the end.
Tex, do you have a couple names or one you really want to break down?
Yeah, I got a couple. I mean, you mentioned Justice Hill. I think he's a guy that if something happened to Mark Ingram, I think Justice Hill has the skill set to handle that and do really well. And if he gets a lot of volume, that's obviously something. I'm paying attention to this Ravens backfield because I have to think they're going to cut one of Kenneth Dixon or Gus Edwards. They're not going to cut Justice Hill. The names I'd want to mention here, Duke Johnson. I know that he's not like a waiver wire guy because he's going to move up draft boards based on getting traded to Houston. But if you're looking for someone that could potentially be that next Phillip Lindsay, it's a guy that people thought was a third down back because of the way Hugh Jackson used him. He's more than that. The question is, can he handle a big workload like, Phillip Lindsay did last year? And the talent's there. He plays on a fantastic offense that's going to score a whole lot of points. So that's like the biggest thing I think you look for when you're looking for these, breakout running backs is like finding the ones that are attached to those high scoring teams. So my other one would be a guy that we talked about in yesterday's podcast is Darwin Thompson. Darwin Thompson plays for the Chiefs. And if Carlos Hyde is in fact done, if Damian Williams, his hamstring flares up again, any running back that walks into that, starting role in Andy Reid's offense, like is default, like an RB1, RB2 play. Like Charkandrick West was that guy. Spencer Ware wasn't going to be anything without the Chiefs. So, I mean, Damian Williams was nothing before he got to the Chiefs. So it's like you have to like put all the common denominators together. And I think, so Duke Johnson and Darwin Thompson would be my picks.
My guy's Malcolm Brown. He's been moving up boards lately. We saw Henderson listed as the RB5. Obviously, that's not going to continue. But I look at Henderson, and I think he's more of a third down back. Like, remember this time last year we were talking about John Kelly, and then they just used him as a third down back? I think Henderson can be elite third down back. I think he can run on early downs, but I think Malcolm Brown is the main guy there. Henderson's been struggling with that outside zone that they run so much with the Rams here in training camp, and that's why they think he's just not ready. They kept Malcolm Brown knowing that, whatever's going on with Todd Gurley, they wanted Malcolm Brown as that insurance. He's an impressive running back. And remember, C.J. Anderson, who you can say what you want, but I think he was way out of shape last year. He was awesome in this offense. I think Malcolm Brown can do the same thing, and I think he would be the lead back if anything happened to Todd Gurley.
I don't disagree with that narrative at all. That entirely supports why you should avoid Todd Gurley.
I'll just take all three of them at price. I mean, the Rams are going to produce a ton of fantasy points.
Yeah,
in the
and it's not going to be Gurley.
All right. Why don't you give us just two or three names? You don't have to dive deep into them, Brad, but do you see a couple other guys who could be that RB1 type if anything breaks their way?
Well, I mentioned Darwin Thompson earlier. I think he definitely falls in to the equation. I really like Justin Jackson as well. I mean, we don't have a resolution in sight with this Melvin Gordon saga, but, everybody is extending their go-go gadget arm for Austin Eckler. And, he was an advanced analytics darling last year. I get it. But once he was thrust into a high-volume situation, he crumbled like a cookie. So for me, I think Jackson's the more talented running back. Kid out of Northwestern who unfortunately just battered and bruised and tattooed my Fighting Illini. Then again, everybody did over the last few years. But I think Jackson's the bolt that you want if this Gordon dilemma doesn't find a proper and supportive end for fantasy purposes. So give me Justin Jackson here in this conversation.
I love that one. Tags, why don't you give us a couple more names? I know you like Damian Harris.
Yeah, I mean, I basically, Damian Harris, but the thing is, when I'm looking for these guys, I'm looking for guys that are potentially drafted later, because Phillip Lindsay was a guy that nobody drafted, and that's why I hated even giving Duke Johnson to this list, because Duke Johnson is going to get drafted, but he's someone that, like, legitimately the talent is there if he walks into that role. Well, the last player I'm going to mention is a guy that Brad kind of poo-pooed on earlier, but I'm going to say it's Mike Davis. Everybody writing off Mike Davis because of, David Montgomery. And I still believe that David Montgomery's the starter, but everybody's writing off Mike Davis. And we did the same exact thing with everybody else in the Broncos depth chart last year, whereas Royce Freeman, we're like, oh, this guy was drafted in the 3rd round. There's no way they're going to start an undrafted guy over him. And they did. And it's not to say that, again, I like David Montgomery an awful lot. I actually like Royce Freeman too. But the guys behind them are not bad football players. Mike Davis is a good football player. He can catch passes, and even if he doesn't pass David Montgomery, if Montgomery were to go down for whatever reason, Mike Davis walks into a role that he's going to be an RB1, RB2 every single week.
Hey, you guys know who the best running back in the Vikings backfield is?
Oh, don't even say Mike Boone.
I mean, it's not a question. It's Mike Boone. If you look at all the metrics, there's only been 2 players in the history of football who have run a 4-5.
I thought we were done with the hot takes portion.
Oh, it's not a hot take, man. If anything happens to Dalvin Cook, and let's not act like he's not fragile. I know they drafted Alexander Madison. Mike Boone can run the football, and he is a better athlete than Dalvin Cook. He had a sub 4.5 40 time, less than a 7-second 3-cone, benched 20-plus reps, jumped 37 inches, 11-foot broad jump. I mean, he weighs 200-plus pounds. He's an absolute beast, man. He's one of these guys that won't be drafted. I'm not saying draft him. Keep an eye on him. If anything happens to Dalvin Cook, everyone's going to be excited about Madison. I think it might be Boone, guys. The other names I wanted to mention, I already mentioned Chase Edmonds before, Jalen Samuels, Tony Pollard.
I thought you were going to go Zach Zenner off the Mike Boone take there.
All right, guys, that's all for today's show. Brad, really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Muchas gracias. Just if you guys don't mind, a couple of plugs real quick. Check out the Fantasy Record podcast, friend of this podcast, because we're all friends of the podcast world. Also check out the Fantasy Football Hour, back for season 4. We're syndicated nationally in 112 million households on regional sports networks across the country. Going to have some more distribution information tied to that.
That's amazing.
Down the road. And, of course, you can hit me up on Twitter, harass me, throw stakes at me, trash, whatever you want. I'll feed the trolls. That's what I like to do at Yahoo Noise.
I'll take steaks.
Well, some people do throw me some juicy steaks, and I enjoy those moments. And others throw rotten cabbage at me, and I enjoy those moments, too.
Oh, you guys.
Yeah, you always get back at them, and it's really entertaining to me, man. All right, thanks again, Brad. Remember the special opportunity I mentioned, courtesy of bestfantasyfootballleague.com, where we're going to have a best ball league for listeners at bestfantasyfootballleague.com. The first 10 people who email support at bestfantasyfootballleague.com and mention Fantasy Pros in the subject line are going to gain a free entry to this league to take on Tags and I. The entry fee is going to be waived for everyone who joins, and it's a 20-round best ball league that's going to have full point PPR, and the league is not tight end premium. The starting lineup is 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wideouts, a tight end, a flex. And the first place winner is going to get $136. Second place is going to take home $68. Once again, you can enter the league and take on Tags and I if you're one of the first 10 people to email support at bestfantasyfootballleague.com and mention Fantasy Pros in the subject line. Thanks to bestfantasyfootballleague.com and the other sponsors of today's show, Draft. You can enter for your shot at $1 million on Draft by searching Draft in the App or Play Store, or go to draft.com and enter the promo code FANTASYPROS. Again, that's Draft in the App Store. Enter the promo code FANTASYPROS for your free shot at $1 million. And thanks also to Pristine Auction, where you can get guaranteed authentic items no matter who your favorite team is for your cave. And when you sign up, it's free to sign up, by the way. Enter the registration code FANTASYPROS, all one word. You're going to get $5 off at Pristine Auction with your first purchase. That's pristineauction.com, PRISTINE, and make sure to sign up for that George Kittle helmet. It's not too late if you're listening on Friday at fantasypros.com/contest. Also, don't forget to check out our draft simulator at fantasypros.com/simulator. And if you want to take advantage of that offer to get a 6-month Hall of Fame package for free, check out fantasypros.com/offers. For Brad Evans and Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your football.